Hello students. Now we're going to start our art and culture for December month. So let's quickly begin, right? Okay. So the first one is Nuad massage. So this Nuad massage is from the Thailand, currently included in the recently included in the intangible world heritage cultural heritage site. So we have discussed many of the intangible cultural heritage site of India as well, right? If you remember Kalbelia dance that we have included, Chahu dance we have included, right? So this particular massage is from the Thailand, that you need to remember. So it focuses on directing the blood circulation. Obviously what happens in the massage similar to that. So therapists use forearms and knees to apply the pressure. So these are the things of the Thailand. If you know, you must be knowing Thailand's massage are really famous, right? So let's move to the next topic. So next topic is Saptamatrika cult. So Saptamatrika cult, here you need to know two things. First of all, first thing is that with respect to the Sanskrit inscription, I should explain it. Just one second. Here, let's explain. So with respect to that, we need to know two things. First, a Sanskrit inscription, like the earliest Sanskrit inscription has been found in that. And for Saptamatrika cult, we know first like the inscription has been found. Now this inscription gives the evidence of the Saptamatrika cult, the earliest one. Okay, so there will be stories of two things will be going on, right? Now let's start. So that is Sapta Matrika cult. So this cult is basically a group of 7 female deities. They were worshipped in the Hinduism as a personification of the energy of their respective consort. So okay, so let's talk about the Sanskrit thing. So it is the earliest Sanskrit inscription to have been discovered in the South India as on date. Okay, so to be discovered in the South India, first earliest Sanskrit inscription. That means before that there must have been the other inscription. So it predates, it predates Nagarjun Konda inscription of the Ishkuaku king, which was 4th century AD. So this inscription is before that, the first earliest South India Sanskrit inscription was in the 4th century AD. Before that, so now it is in the 207 AD. So this inscription is the becomes the latest one. So this is the story on the Sanskrit inscription end. Okay, this is issued by the Satavahana king in the 207 AD. This cult, the recent inscription, right? Second is the Archaeological Survey of India discovered the earliest epigraphic evidence for the Saptamatrika cult. This means earlier it was believed that this cult was there afterwards. Now, because of that inscription, it is been decided, AIC has said, though it was present in the earlier time. Okay. So before that, Saptamatrika cult was seen 200 after 200 years. That means around 5th century, 407th AD. So in the 5th century, there have been earlier references for Saptamatrika worship. Okay, in the Kadamba copper plates and early Chalukyan Chalukya copper plates. Okay. So now you get the idea. So just to reiterate, so in the South India, earlier a Sanskrit inscription was found. A Sanskrit inscription was earlier found in Ikshwaku king in the 4th century AD. Now it has been predated to 207 AD with respect to this Saptamatrika cult. And also the date of the Saptamatrika cult has been found that it is worshipped even before it was assumed. Okay. That is the two things that we need to know. Now let us discuss about this inscription itself. The inscription is written in the Sanskrit in the Brahmi characters. Okay, that's all you need to know with respect to that. Okay, so these are the cults. These are the 7 different images from that particular Saptamatrika cult. So this is that earliest you can see earliest Sanskrit inscription in the South India found in Andhra Pradesh. Yes, you need to know that is they are found in the Andhra Pradesh, right? So 207 in the Satavahana king. So what you need to remember, what you need to revise in your ancient and medieval, just like I said in the polity discussion, right? That you need to revise your static content based upon the current information that you are getting. You have to read everything, but you should emphasize on Satavahana kingdom in your ancient and medieval classes. Okay, so that is that. Then rethinking of the Saptamatrika cult of the Tamil Nadu. So these are the two stories. Earlier it was believed to be later on. So 5th century, now it is found to be in the 3rd century, early part of the 3rd century itself. Right, let's move. Next is Jallikattu, Kambala, and Hori Habba. So not too much detail we're going to discuss. Jallikattu, you need to know it's all the bull taming sports are there. You know, last year it was last year it was the controversy. Animal Welfare Board of India versus Supreme Court directives were there. Finally, the state government, because a lot of pressure from the people, a lot of pressure from certain cultural groups, which have said that these are the part of our cultural heritage, we cannot live without them, kind of arguments were given. So what we need to know from prelims perspective, it's a mains thing, ethics thing, animal ethics and all these things, those are in the mains category. What a prelim perspective thing we need to know, that Jallikattu from Tamil Nadu, Kambala from Karnataka, and Hori Habba is from the Karnataka. So these two are from the Karnataka and this is from Tamil Nadu, right? If the question will come, it will be on these lines, right? Next is so just remember, right? So Hori Harabba is the bull catching and Kambala is a buffalo race. Okay, both in the Karnataka. So again, they remain in the news, casualty rise, safety concern, all these things. So many of the casualty also happen on these when these events happen. Next, we're going to read is Tanbo art or the rice paddy art. So Tanbo art is basically, it is originated in the Japan. So what they do, this is a rice field. So in the rice field, they make these type of very replica of famous paintings, right? So with the rice, very beautiful art it is. So this is, so if the question will not come on the rice paddy arts, they can ask question if the question comes. So what is Tanbo art? Okay, so Tanbo art, they can ask what is this? It's a type of a painting, it is a type of a sculpture, what is type? So it is a art done in the rice paddy field. So this is being done in India. You can see they have made these things in India. So in the Kerala, these they try to replicate the images in the rice paddy art. Okay, now let's move forward. Next is as we are discussing philosophies every week, now we have discussed, I think, major orthodox philosophies apart from the Vedanta. Now we discuss Charvaka philosophy. So you can see Charvaka philosophy is very different from what we have been reading in the other philosophies. The whole idea of the major Indian philosophy, especially the orthodox Indian philosophy, the idea is to attain, ultimate idea is to attain salvation, attain moksha. Okay, and the Charvaka philosophy just counters that. So Charvaka philosophy, first of all, it becomes a part of the heterodox school. Okay, it is not an orthodox school, it does not believe in the authority of the Veda. I'll just summarize you in the start, then we will discuss point by point. So Charvaka philosophy is basically saying that what we can see is only truth. Perception is, there is one common name is perception, is the only source of knowledge, right? And what the other orthodox school was saying, that testimony, that is the whatever written in the Veda is also a source of knowledge. So we cannot see what is written in the Vedas. If Veda says that there is a God, then there is a God. So other philosophical schools are saying whatever written in the Veda is true, but Charvaka philosophy makes a first thing that perception is the only source of the knowledge. So if the perception is the only source of the knowledge, then all the concepts of heaven, health, God, all these things go into the wind. They say there is no concept like that. There is no afterlife, right? They say there is no Akash because we cannot see Akash. There is fire because we can see fire. There is water, we can because see water. There is earth, we can see earth. But there is no ether. Okay, something like that. So this is Charvaka. Now we discuss point by point. So the person who is said to be related to this, the founder of the philosophy, is Brihaspati. In fact, some people say Charvaka was the name of the person with whom this particular philosophy is dedicated. However, these things are contentious. Who was Charvak, or it was a group of philosophers, a group of people? These things are contentious. What we need to remember, that Brihaspati was the foundational stone of the, he laid the foundation stone of the school, right? It is one of the earliest school of philosophy, right? Because it is very old enough, it does not find its mention in the Veda and the other Upanishads. Okay, so they propounded the materialistic view of life. Till now we were reading about the spiritualistic view of life, right? For example, attainment of the moksha and all these things, they are the spiritual way of life. But the Charvaka philosophy talks about the materialistic view of life, right? Secondly, and they are named as the Lokayat. So Lokayat means philosophy of the common people. You see, common people do not understand heaven, hell, and all these things. They understand what? Okay, it's very easy for us to remember. Okay, someone says God nahi hai, so God is there, and we need to just eat, drink, and marry. Just khao piyo, maze karo, only right? Just enjoy. So common people like that, many of the common people, and it is said that it is from this word lokayat has been derived from the common people, so that the philosophy is the idea is conveyed to them very easily. It is very difficult to convey to them the idea of Samkhya philosophy, very difficult to convey to them the idea of yoga philosophy, but it is very easy to them the convey idea of the Charvaka philosophy. Okay, so yes, lokayat means also lokayat from common people, and also lokayat means the material world. Lok means the physical material world around us. They said that this material world is the only truth. There is no there is no heaven or hell. There is only this material life, what we are wearing, what we are, our physical body. They are the complete truth, right? So they complete disregard for the word that is beyond us. So obviously they will deny the existence of any Brahma, God. No supernatural or divine agent is there, right? So they believe only the things that we can touch and experience. So they believe in they do not even consider ether as the 5 essential elements. However, they consider air. Why? Because we can feel the air. We cannot see the air, but we can feel them. Acha, perception does not mean only the perception by the eyes, but also perception by our sensory organs. For example, we can feel the air, we can feel the perfume, right? We cannot see the perfume, but we can feel the perfume. So they consider air. They say that the universe is made up of the 4 elements, not 5 elements. So fire, earth, water, and air. So they say these 4 elements are the core constituents of the universe. There is no conscious purpose. The world is not made for salvation. There is no like reincarnation jaisa kuch nahi hai. There is nothing like that. Only earth, fire, air, and water is there. Okay. So finally they say, so we are getting born and we die. So our death is the end of human life. So after that, nothing is there. So enjoy everything you have before the death. Okay. So pleasure should be the ultimate objective of the life. So they propound the theory of drink, eat, and marry. Eat, drink, and make merry. So if you remember, Mr. Modi has also described in one of the parliamentary speech that India has rejected the philosophy of Charvak. In fact, he used the same words. He said India has rejected the philosophy of Charvak, that is, eat, drink, and make merry. And apart from the other things that he has said. So he has mentioned that in his own speech also once time. Okay, so one thing I want to discuss, if the question of Charvak can be asked, if a tough question is asked, they can ask you this part. I've taken it from the philosophy optional, but they can ask you this question. So as they say, I'm going to explain you, they say world comes into existence from the spontaneous combination of these 4 elements. Right? So these 4 elements comes together and the world is formed. That is their metaphysics. We have discussed the difference between metaphysics and epistemology. So Charvaka's metaphysics, how the world is formed. So their metaphysics says that the world is formed by the spontaneous combination of these 4 materials: air, earth, fire, water. And there is no conscious purpose behind this. There is no conscious purpose that we have to achieve salvation, nothing like that. Right? So they call their philosophy the naturalism or the Swabhavad. They say that it is in the nature of these 4 elements to spontaneously bind. So it is in the nature of these 4 elements that they will come together and form a world. So it is in their Swabhav, it is in their nature. So that is their philosophy is known as the naturalism or the Swabhava. Okay. As I said, there is no spiritual purpose, there is no conscious purpose. Hence, their philosophy is also known as the Yadrechvad. So question can come, Yadrechvad is associated with which philosopher? So it is associated with the Charvaka, right? So it is associated with the Yadrechvad because it denies any conscious purpose behind the world's creation, and they say it is just a mechanistic combination of all the elements. Getting my point? So this is Charvaka's philosophy. Okay. So now we have discussed many of the philosophy. Now we move on to the next one. Next is Pavakothu. So Pavakothu is a glove puppetry of the Kerala. That's all you need to know. You can see very beautiful. And you can see similarity with the face. What is this? Kathakali. So they derive a lot of influence from the Kathakali. Okay, I hope you will be preparing all the classical dances and all these things on your own end. Right? So they are the play are themed around the narration of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. So this is Pavakothu. Next is national anthem. So national anthem, it was in the news because in Rajya Sabha someone said that we need to amend some part of the national anthem. We will discuss that. So first, some things about national anthem. So first, it was sung around 1911. Okay, first sung in 1911 at the Calcutta session of the Congress. These facts you need to know. Finally, it was adopted as our national anthem on 24th January. How can you remember it? That it was the last day of our constituent session, because after that 26th we finally declared as a republic. Okay, so last day of our constituent assembly, Jan Gan Man is our national anthem, and it was adopted as the national anthem. Okay, so in our fundamental duty in Article 51A, it is given that we need to pay reverence to the national anthem, right? So originally it was written in the Bengali. First, it is the first of the 5 stanza of the poem, written and later set to notations by the Rabindranath Tagore. So who is attributed to the national anthem of India is Rabindranath Tagore. In fact, he also, Amar Sonar Bangla, also the anthem of the Bangladesh, Rabindranath Tagore is associated with that. So our vice president has launched the Poshan anthem, but that's the thing, different thing. So this was the thing. So Rajya Sabha member wants to modify the anthem. So if you remember, there is a word name, Janagan Man Adhinayak Jai Hai Bharat Bhagya Vidata. So there is Sindh word is mentioned in our right. So they say Sindh is not the part of our country. Sindh is the part of Pakistan. Karachi is the capital of Sindh. So they want to include Northeast into it. They said Northeast should be there in the national anthem. So that is why it was in the news. Okay. Right. Next is indianculture.go.in portal. So Government Cultural Ministry has made this portal with a team developed by the team of IIT Bombay. So it is a part of Digital India initiative. So what is the idea? To showcase India's culture and digitalize everything like that. Okay. So this is India's culture, a platform for the digital preservation of the cultural heritage of the India. Right. Okay. Let's move very quickly. So Mr. Prahlad Singh, that is Union Minister for Culture, has launched this Indian Culture Portal. Okay. Next is Sahitya Academy Award. So what is Sahitya Academy Award? So these are the awards. First of all, these are the second highest literary or honor given by the government. Highest is the Gyanpith Award. Gyanpith Award is the highest, then Sahitya Academy Award. In which language work should be there? So the language that is recognized by the academy. So apart from the 22 official language, they have also decided English and the Rajasthani language to be included in the Sahitya Academy. So if someone has done the work in the Sahitya, in the literary work in these 24 languages, he will be considered for the Sahitya Academy Award. But his work should be the 5 years. Last 5 years the work should be in. Okay. And only Indian citizen can get this particular award. So I'm highlighting in the black these things from recently. So these things are relatively more important. Okay. Apart from the yellow thing. Right. So 22 writers got the Sahitya Academy Puruskar. It was in the news. Let's move to the next point. That is Paika Rebellion. So some history facts we will see. 3 history facts we will see. Paika Rebellion. So Paika Rebellion, last year it was too much in news because many of the people were facilitated, those who were the descendants of the people involved in the Paika Rebellion. Finally, government said that it was the first, first war of independence. Before 1857, it happened, right? So government has said it was before the 1857. This was our first organized way of resisting the British. So it happened 200 years ago, not 2000, 200 years ago in the Odisha, Kurda of Odisha, led by the Bakshi Jagabandhu. So he led it. What was the story behind Paika Rebellion? So it is said that before coming to the British in 16th century by the kings in the Odisha, these people, these Paikas were the social groups. They have to render some service, and when they render some military service to these people, to the kings, these kings will give them, okay, you don't have to give tax. Okay, they will give them rent-free tax, rent-free land they will give. So this was the arrangement before British. So they used to get the land and they used to provide the military service, martial service. But after the British have come, they have include the land reform, not land reform, some changes in the land laws they have made, right? So they start extracting the revenues out of them. So they have to pay a lot of money, which was expensive for them. And then it led to their marginalization, oppression, and finally they revolted against the British. This is the whole story behind them, right? So this is Paika Rebellion. Okay, so Ramnath Kovind visited the Gujarat's Kordhara district where it was happened. Next, very controversial, Bhima Koregaon battle. So what you need to know, few things first of all with respect to that. Now again, just focus on the prelims thing, not on the value judgment on these things, right? So Bhima Koregaon was the part of the third Anglo Maratha war that happened in 1817 and 1818. Okay, so I'll summarize it for you. So Peshwa, it was the Peshwa versus the British, very easy. So after this is the last war of the British, last war of the Anglo Maratha war, and after this Maratha power came to an end in India. As a power, it came to an end. So this was the battle in which Peshwa, it is said that the Peshwas have excluded these Mahar tribe, Mahar, Mahar tribe from their services. So, and they did not respect them, the untouchable, they were untouchable. So they Dalits, currently Dalits. So they Peshwas from the upper caste, they do not respect them, they have marginalized them, they do not get into their service. So Mahar got enlisted into the British. Okay, so in the Bhima Koregaon battle, basically the British with the help of the Mahars have defeated the Peshwa forces. So it is a symbol of the Dalit assertion. Getting my point? It is a symbol of Dalit assertion versus the higher caste domination led by the Peshwa in that time. And its legacy is continuing to this time. You can see the many time violence break out because of when the people go and visit this place, right? It became in prominence in 1927 when B.R. Ambedkar went to the place. Okay, now let's start discussing the things. So this is the pillar which is erected symbolizing the victory of the British over the Peshwas, not per se, but it symbolizes the victory of the Mahars more specifically. Okay, so this is the pillar. So you can read about it. Mahar soldiers were there. It was not just a war memorial. It's a living proof of the superior Dalit Prast, symbol of the dignity and the valor of the glorious Dalit history. This is how Dalit people see this as. Okay, so it is a part of the third Anglo-Maratha war, right? It culminated in the defeat of Maratha, and it is the victory pillar that we have I have shown you the picture. So it commemorates the battle. Okay, in 1927, Mr. B.R. Ambedkar visited the site along with the Mahar soldiers. Okay, and that's it. The violence, and it was a symbol of the Dalit assertion. That Peshwa story I was telling you, I've taken directly from the Wikipedia, and it is in the news also. So which were the so-called high caste Brahmin? They were notorious for the mistreatment and the prosecution of the untouchables. So they did not took untouchables and these people into their service, and that is why it is said that it is a symbol of the Dalit assertion. However, there is a different Dalit scholar who refutes the fact, but not important to us, right? Okay. Next is Swami Shraddhanand. So he was in the news because many of the right wing, some people were there, some chat on the social media side that actually this Mr. Swami Shraddhanand, the Swami, was killed by a Muslim guy, right? And you know the communal atmosphere in our country right now. So again, not talking about the value things, we are discussing only the things from the prelims perspective. So he came into contact few of the things. According to him, if the question comes, I hope no question will come, because again, a controversial figure, and the government will not give, or UPSC will not give the questions on these things. But still, he was in the news. That's why we have to discuss him. So in 1980s, he came into contact with Swami Dayanand, the founder of the Arya Samaj. He wrote the book Hindu Sangathan. He called the untouchability a blot or the curse. So he wrote some books, right? He established Gurukul in the press. Again, not very important, right? He protested against the royal attack, and finally he was assassinated in 1926. That's all. So in the Indian Express, there was a huge article. They've explained who was the Swami Shraddhanand who fell to bullets in 1926. Actually, why it was in the news, because Mahatma Gandhi said in the next Congress session that the person who has fired the bullet, Abdul Rashid, I think his name was. So he has said that he was my brother or something. Like, he was not supporting the murder, but he was talking about the difference between the crime and a criminal, that we know in the Gandhian philosophy, right? That they believe in that the crime should be punished, not the criminal. We should root out the crime out of the criminal. We should believe in the dignity of an individual, something like that. Again, not too much important for our UPSC. Let's move to the next fact, the last fact of the day, that is Nehru Liaquat Pact. Why it is in the news? It's the post-independence fact in the news because Mr. Narendra Modi has quoted this particular pact in the parliament. Okay, because the citizenship debate was going on, so that is why it was in the news, right? So what was the Nehru Liaquat Pact, so signed by the Jawaharlal Nehru and the Pakistani Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan? The idea, it is also known as the Delhi Pact, right? So the idea is to provide the certain safeguards and rights to the religious minority on the both the sides of the India. So partition, in which a lot of religious minorities, for example Hindus, remain here and some Muslims remain here. So the idea was to protect the minority in each other country, so Hindus remaining in the Pakistan and the Muslim remaining in the India. So they made a pact that we will take care of the respective minority in our country. That's it. So it expired in 1956. However, again, you can see the Nehru thing always comes into news by our current leadership, right? Okay. So with respect to this, we move on. We have done this particular art and culture and history session. Many fact of the history we also discussed. So quickly let us revise. So Nuad Massage from Thailand, getting into the part of the United Nations intangible World Heritage Site by the UNESCO. Then we discussed in detail about Saptamatrika cult. I told you about it is important, because Sanskrit inscription is there in South India, earliest Sanskrit inscription in South India, and that becomes important. Apart from the discovery of the Indus Valley civilization and the Keladi excavation that I have discussed way back, these three things and any of the things that reset the clock of our cultural history, these things are really important for prelims. I will say that Keladi excavation are very important for our prelims, right? Next, we discuss Jallikattu, Kambala, and Hori Habba. These Hori Habba, they are from Karnataka. This is from Tamil Nadu. Then Tanbu art, rice paddy art from currently done in the Kerala, on the lines being done in the Japan. Then Charvaka, we discussed in detail about Charvaka school of philosophy, right? So keep that in mind. Especially I've included the paragraph which is not present in your static books, that is naturalism or Yadrechwad. Naturalism, Swabhavad and Yadrechwad. So these are the terms associated with the Charvaka philosophy, and I've also explained in detail why so. Then I talked about Pavakothu, that is the puppetry. Then national anthem we discussed. Then finally Indian culture government.in. Then we discussed some of the facts with respect to history, that is Paika rebellion, Bhima Koregaon battle, Swami Shraddhanand, and we ended with the Nehru Liaquat Pact. Right? So with this, we finish our art and culture and history session of our December month. See you in the next class, everyone. Keep reading, keep revising. Any problem you feel, let us know. Put in the comment box. We will resolve your queries. So see you in the next class. Thank you, everyone.